This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you to the glory of God and to the benefit of all those who listen. All right, praise God. Welcome once again, my friends, to Voiceover In and Out. Glad to have all of you here. Praise God. Great crowd in the Zoom session, and I'm sure a great one listening back online later as well. Now, today is Wednesday for those who are listening live or happen to be listening on the same day. And I am amazed because after today, we have just 5 sessions left in this course. 3 days next week and 2 days the following. Pretty incredible that we've gone this far already, praise God. And we've got marathon sessions for you to finish this thing out. We'll meet 3 days next week, all in this same Zoom session. And then 2 days the following, Monday and Tuesday, with Tuesday the 23rd being the final session of the course. I also want to mention to you, and I will remind you of this again next week and the last week of the class, but the final session on Tuesday, December the 23rd, is going to be our wrap-up / Q&A session. And so the vast majority of that session will be directed by you, by your questions. So we want you to come prepared with questions. Any Apple questions are fair game up to this point, and including today and next week and the following Monday. You know, we ask that the questions be on the topic of basically what we're teaching or sometimes what we've taught. But that final Tuesday session, anything related to Apple products, Apple devices, Apple accessories, we want to open that up and make sure you can get those questions answered. And so it's all fair game. So you just make sure it's Apple related and VoiceOver, you know, probably for most of you, but either way, it doesn't have to be VoiceOver related, but Apple related for sure. So come with your questions for that final one. And then don't forget, if you've not already done it, to subscribe to the newsletter at ttjtech.biz. You can also subscribe to stiritup.com. That's stir with a U, not an I. And that's Trainer Cliff's business and his website. Of course, he and I often work together, but he does have his own business as well. You may want to follow his newsletter, or you may say, why should we boost Cliff's ego at all? And give him any business. And of course, he may not even be here to appreciate me picking on him, so hopefully he'll listen back later and he can appreciate it then. But in all seriousness, he does the lion's share of the Mac stuff. I do train on Mac as well, but I'm kind of the iOS person, and he assists with that. So typically, when you get one of us, you get both of us, and the reason we want to make sure you're subscribed is because shortly after Christmas, we will be announcing our spring schedule, which really begins in January, even though spring doesn't technically begin till March, but that's the spring semester, and it goes January through May. I can tell you for sure that we will be offering our iPad for all computing course, our flagship course there. If you are finding this course that you're in now to be a blessing and to be enjoyable, I would highly encourage you to consider taking the iPad class, especially if you have an iPad. But even if you don't and you're thinking about getting one, it'd be a great time to check things out. And it's also free. We'll have more Tuesday sessions. And we will be most likely doing several digital cafes, mini courses on things like the Apple TV, the Apple Watch. Trainer Cliff, I believe, is going to bring back the More with the Mac sessions this winter and into spring. And if you're wondering which one is right for you, Mac versus iPad, we TTJ instructors are going to get together and we're going to have a little head-to-head battle over the Mac versus the iPad. And of course, I say that jokingly. We're really going to play that up, but the reality of it is it's not a battle at all. It's whatever you like. They're both very, very capable. But of course, since it's going to be Trainer Cliff and me doing a lot of the presentation there, we're certainly going to play it up and make it as if it's a competition, because why wouldn't we do so? And Trainer Sarah is going to have the privilege of moderating and all of that fun stuff. And by the way, Sarah, how you doing? Well, Sarah may not. Uh,
I had no idea you had unmuted me.
I was well. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, because we normally don't talk this early in the sessions, so I figured you might not have. But yeah, how are you?
I'm good, but if I'm going to be, monitoring the two of you, do I need to bring my armor?
I think that would be very appropriate. Yes, I think that
Okay.
would be wise. Absolutely.
Good thing I have some.
That's right. That's right. So, is it um
Snowing?
is it
Yes.
snowing or chilly up there? Yeah.
No, it's snowing. So we're having a snowstorm.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Today is actually a little bit milder than earlier in the week, but anything I say is not going to impress you because you're north of me, so it's really not, we were down, I think we had a low of maybe 10 or 15 the other night,
Okay.
which for
This
us
is the
is
battle of the weather? Because
this is the battle. That's right.
yeah,
But
we were at 1 degree during the day
wow.
and
Wow.
below zero during the night, like
Yeah.
below, I think 5 below or 6
We
below something.
We get that every once in a while in the winter. Most winters we do get, a short stretch of it. But it's not it's not common. Single digits, you get down to that and we're starting to
But
find it a
the
bit unique. We usually
yeah,
yeah.
the thing is, it's not even winter yet.
That's the part that is funny about it. Yes, yes. That's the part that's interesting. Uh
Yeah. So, I mean, we've already had plows and,
yeah. Yep.
uh, disasters, and we were out of
Well,
heat the other morning.
oh my.
There
Oh
was
my.
no heat, and it was the coldest day of the year, and
Wow.
we're like, this is not okay. And the hot water was gone too.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
Anyway,
good.
we're all
Yeah.
better.
Well, that's good. Yeah, praise God. Well, we have the gamut of weather from the, single digits, sometimes below zero, and then in the summer, in sometimes high 80s, mid 90s, and I like it all. I especially like the spring and summer, of course, that. But last spring, very rarely do I even say much about the weather because it just is the weather, and I like certain things. But last spring, when we had like 60 degrees on Memorial Day or high 50s on Memorial Day. Now, that I wasn't thrilled about. I was very, very much ready for it to warm up. And it finally did warm up, of course. But
Yeah.
it just, was.
And
You
then when
just.
it's too hot, we complain then too.
Well, it's funny because I like the heat, but most of the time I'm outside. I'm in the water. I mean, I don't swim, but I go in the swimming pool and we go to the beach and I sit in the, beach chair right at the water's edge and all that, And this year when we were at the beach, it was like maybe high 90s and or a little bit hotter at times. So we really were enjoying the water, and so that was all well and good. Well, then we went to our county fair, and it wasn't even high 90s. It might have been high 80s, but there's no water, And I mean,
Yeah.
it was really, really hot, and we were there during the day, and I said I need to get to the lemonade right away because, of course, the fresh made fair lemonade is always good. And I had sort of had a bit of a sinus headache that day anyway, and I said I really need to get to the lemonade, and I'm grabbing desperately for the cup, and my son says to me, he said, "You acting like you thought you were about to pass out." I said, "Well, for about a second I did." I said, "I thought," but but
Man desperately reaching for lemonade faints in doing so.
And praise God, not. But
Yeah,
that was
right.
it was definitely. But they did have a rain several days before that, and so when we went on the carousel ride that they had, every time the carousel would turn, the water would fall off of the roof and hit us. I said that is a brilliant invention. Like they need to do that on purpose. That somebody just
Like at
came up with a
Disney.
million
Yeah,
dollar idea there.
right, right,
Carousel as a water ride. Uh,
right, right. Cool
I know
off.
you had to. I know you had to leave early yesterday. What did you have anything to? I have a couple more things to add today before we go to the experience lab. But did you have anything to add from what you heard yesterday, or any comments that you were wanting to make about Safari?
Um, no, no, I don't think so. I think you covered pretty much everything. I'm trying to go back there and, I've already been using Safari a whole bunch of times this morning, but I have very few, I just use it when I'm searching for something. And so I have very few go to, bookmarks or not bookmarks, but favorites or whatever.
Well, and I'm gonna switch to original sound here.
Noise micro done button.
Here we
Speech
go.
off.
I tend to like to use apps for certain things. Like, you can go to Amazon.com, but I like the Amazon app. You know,
Yeah,
go to your banking website, but I like the app. Now there are
right.
some that, like, we often talk about Mac Rumors. Both Cliff and I use that a lot. And now I think he has the Mac Rumors app, or he might use one of those other, like RSS readers or something to get it. But I just go to the website for stuff like that. It just depends. What I do find is I'm not using Google searches nearly as much as I used to. I mean, I don't have empirical data, but I would say that my Google searches have dropped by about 99% because I use AI for all that now.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm using Perplexity, Chat GPT.
exactly.
Yeah. And
Yep.
so I'm not so much on Safari um, unless, it forsakes me.
Right.
Um,
Well, there have been one or two cases where I have felt that I actually wanted to see a list of search results rather than a definitive answer from AI, because I wanted to see other people's experiences with a certain thing in forums, or something like that. So then in that
yeah.
case I'll still do the Google search, but that's rare.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'd rather just have the conversation with the AI and get the answers that way.
Yeah. Well, what happened to me the other day is I asked how to spell a certain word from ChatGPT, and it said it's spelled this way, and then just said the word, and I'm like, then it would disappear, and I'm like, wait a
Yeah.
minute, like, I mean, what does it think? I mean, and I tried it a bunch of times, thinking, okay, that's just a fluke, but it refused to do, like whatever, heinous, HEINOUS. And so I just thought it was really weird.
Now, did you try saying to it, like, can you read that to me letter by letter, and saying something like
Yeah.
that? And
I
it still
tried
wouldn't.
something sort of like that. Can you spell it? Can you spell it letter by letter to me? And again, it would just say the word.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, and again, that goes back to what we always say. That's the A in AI. It's artificial. It's
Yeah, yeah,
not really as much as it seems like it, and maybe even for our own enjoyment, we like to think that it really understands us, but really, it's not truly understanding us. It's a lot of very, very brilliant technology that's brought together to process large language, but it doesn't have um, that deep level of conscious awareness.
and that's why we have to,
And that's why we have
because
to. Exactly.
and that's why your class, and that's why our teaching, and I'm just know as much as you can so you have choices.
Right, right. Well, and a little common sense goes a long way, with asking, for the authenticity of what you're searching, or multiple questions on the same subject to hopefully prompt eventually the absolutely correct one. Apparently, and we don't know the history, and I'm certainly not condemning anybody or anything, but this made the news, so I'm sharing it. It's not like I'm talking about somebody behind their back. Apparently, someone asked ChatGPT for a substitute for table salt. Sodium chloride is, the chemical formula for typical table salt. And one of the things that ChatGPT came up with was sodium bromide. Well, the person ended up in the hospital because you can't eat
Ooh,
sodium bromide. Now, I
yeah,
believe I believe he survived. They got him cleansed, and he was, But the point of that is, we don't know the history of his conversation with ChatGPT, but it's very likely that ChatGPT didn't understand that he was looking for an edible substitute.
right.
And
Mhm.
so, perhaps had he said, and again, I'm not criticizing him, maybe he did, and maybe ChatGPT just really messed up, but we don't know. But, I think the guide there is, we want to word this multiple ways. If it comes up with some sodium bromide, well, can I eat that? It never hurts to
Yeah,
double check and just say it
right,
multiple ways because
right.
eventually you're going to get something that ChatGPT will be able to answer correctly.
Right. And I don't know if this, falls under the same category, but one of the ways that I admire in how you teach is that you teach how to find something, not what to do, but
Right,
how to.
right,
And so I'm thinking, that's the thing. You search, you get the wrong answer, you look for a different venue, you ask the question a different way, you go on an app and you put your finger down in the middle and it's not the place you wanted, so you don't panic. You swipe
right,
to the left, you swipe to the right, you find
right,
out where you are.
right,
You go to the top, four finger tap, or, as you said yesterday, you know, go to the status bar, double tap.
right.
Um, so it's just like how to maneuver, how to find things, how to, figure out where to go, how to go, what to do. But it's in everybody's hands
Well,
once
and I think that's
you know.
especially important in technology because it changes so quickly.
Yep.
So what we teach now might be completely different sequence by next year.
Right. And that's the end of our philosophy course. Bye.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As I like to say, we may not have solved the world's problems, but we've certainly restated them in a very eloquent way. So,
Absolutely. Very eloquent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we might chat more, Sarah and I, during the experience lab, but I have a few more things to show you before we do that. Just some quick things in Safari here. Getting back to what we talked about yesterday, one of the things we spent a considerable amount of time on yesterday was tabs and tab groups and sharing tabs, groups, and all of that sort of thing. And I want to really emphasize that you're going to need to play with this because there's a number of things where you can get the same options in multiple ways and a lot of that. So I would encourage you, we're going to get that recording up there later today. Go back and listen to it as many times as you need to, but try it for yourself, just as we were just discussing. And I also wanted to provide some clarification on um, the private browsing, the private tabs, because yesterday I wasn't exactly sure and I wasn't really clear on what exactly happens with the private tabs when you leave them. And we had a student who was kind enough to point out that indeed those tabs do stay open even though they're private if you leave them open, unless you have them set like to auto close after a period of time or something. And so I did a little more research so I could give you a definitive answer on the what and the when and the how. And of course, as the student pointed out, it is correct that when the tab is left alone, even if it's a private tab, if you just choose a different tab but leave your website open in the private tab, it is going to be very easy to just come back to it. It will not close on its own unless, again, as I said, you have that automatically close tabs setting enabled. The only way, so there's a couple of ways to make sure that if you really want to use private browsing and you want to make sure that you either have to close the tab yourself or you have to if you, the research, I didn't actually test this, but the research says that if you force quit Safari, and you all know force quit is when you go to the app switcher and then swipe up on the app, to exit out and so forth, that will close the private tabs. And of course, as I said, just to manually close them. The other thing that is really useful is that you can, as I mentioned yesterday, you can enable biometric support for your private tabs so that anytime you open that tab, it will require Face ID or Touch ID. So if you need to use a tab repeatedly, even in private mode, and you want to leave it open, you definitely might want to consider the authentication method. And then,
It doesn't close your tabs at a certain point, or you can't set
well, yeah,
Safari.
you can set it to.
Yeah,
Yes, that's right. And that's the other thing we showed people yesterday under settings and then apps and then Safari. We talked about it briefly that you can actually have it set to automatically close all
yeah.
unused tabs, and I think that's a useful setting for sure. Um, Now the other thing with the tabs that I wanted to, and there are some other things that private browsing does, by the way, that I realized when I researched it. Like it will use uh, the private relay and so forth. There's different things that it'll do to keep trackers and other things from discovering your data. Much of that's available even when you're not in private browsing mode. But anyway, for the sake of time, I won't go into all that. But I do want to show you another little nifty tool to have to quickly close tabs and so forth. And that is if you use the rotor actions when your focus is actually on the address and search field itself. Now, you don't want to have the edit field open. You want to do this when it's not open, it's just there. So let me go into Safari.
Doc, Safari.
And I'm already on a website. If I tap the address bar, I'm not inside the address bar edit field. Okay, I don't have the keyboard up on the screen or anything. I have my website.
Last name.
Okay, oh, that's because I'm going to give you a demo of autofill in a moment. So I'm on the Best Buy website. But down at the bottom here,
Page menu, button, back, page address, bestbuy.com, text field.
now,
Double tap to edit.
I am not going to double tap, but it said actions available. So if I swipe up or down, I want you to hear these.
Previous tab, Amazon. Next tab, 30 best trifle recipes to impress your guests for dessert. Show context menu, activate, default.
So it has next tab and previous tab. If you have multiple tabs open, I had Amazon open.
Previous tab, Amazon.com, Titanic, the most.
And I have the next tab open.
Next tab, 30 best trifle recipes to impress your guests for dessert.
Which is a recipe website. And then here's the one I want to show you.
Show context menu.
Show context menu. This is another way, and if you have a ton of tabs open, this is actually an even quicker way. We had a student ask yesterday about, what if you have a ton of tabs open, and I didn't even realize this. You can go into this context menu.
Share, button, copy, button, voice search, button.
Listen to all these options.
Switch tab groups, button, move to tab group, button, close all 6 tabs, button.
There it is. So you can close all of your tabs at once, which that used to be a different way of accessing that, but now you can do it that way. And then
close tab, button.
Close just the single tab that you're in.
Preview, page menu.
And of course there's the preview.
Address, refresh, dismiss context menu.
And we're just going to dismiss that. So again, that was the edit field for the address and search. Without being in it, you just use the rotor. Swipe up and down with one finger. Make sure your rotor is set to actions, but for most people it will be by default. And then you can swipe up and down and choose show context menu. And in there, there's an option to automatically close all of the open tabs, essentially. The last thing I want to show you before we go to the experience lab is I just want to do a little bit more with autofill. We saw autofill yesterday in a quick example when I logged into my DirecTV website account. We saw how you automatically fill a username and a password. And I told you what to do if it has selected the wrong one. You can double tap on the edit field a second time and then look above the keyboard above like the letter I, and it'll have password for this website, or it'll have multiple options, or it may just have a passwords button if it can't tell what the website is, and then you can pick from any of your saved passwords. And I told you we'd show you how to save passwords and stuff later. What I want to show you quickly is how easy it is when all of your information is set up correctly to autofill an entire form. So I've gone to the Best Buy website. Now, I already have a My Best Buy account, so I'm not really going to complete the process of creating one because, as I said, I do already have one. I'm a My Best Buy Total Tech member. Praise God, that's a nice service and so on. But I'm going to pretend like I need to create an account here. So I've already gone, to save time, to the create account page on Best Buy. I just needed somewhere where it would give me a form. And
Screen dim.
I'm going to tap the screen.
Shopping for your business. Create a business account. Link.
Okay, now let's go to the right.
Period. First name. Description. Error. Please enter your first name. Please enter your first name. Last name. Text field. Required. Email address.
So you see,
Text
it
field.
has all these fields, and I don't want to have to manually type in them because that'll take a longer time, right? I can autofill. So let's go back to first name.
First name. Description. Error. Insertion point at end.
Okay, I have a keyboard on the screen now because I double tapped in that edit field.
Cap M.
There's my keyboard.
Mike.
But if I tap above the letters U, I, and O, I will find several things.
Matthew.
There it knows my first name, and I can just double tap that. And if I double tap that, it will insert my first name, and it will very helpfully move me to the next edit field, which would be last name. And then I'll find my last name up above the keyboard. But I'm going to go a step further than that. Let's swipe to the right.
Cap Q.
Okay, see, it's just to the left of the letter Q, so go back.
Matthew.
Swipe to the left again.
Toolbar. Done. Button.
There's a done button that you can hit when you're finished with an edit field if you want. To the left.
Autofill contact. Button.
And a left again.
Next. Button. Previous. Dimmed. Button.
Those next and previous buttons will take you to the next form field or the previous form field. And the done button, of course, closes the active form field. This is really important because the, excuse me, I just got a notification about my humidity here. But anyway, those next and previous and done buttons are actually really important because depending upon the way that a particular form and a particular website is coded, you may need to use those buttons to get to the next form field or to finish entering information. It's not always necessary, but it's a good idea to get used to doing it that way because sometimes what you'll run into is a website where, try as you might, you can't double tap on the next edit field. If you do, it just doesn't open. And you say, well, I'm already in an edit field. I can't double tap on the next one. It may be that you have to use that next button to get into it, or use the done button at least first to get out of the current one, and then you can go to the next one. So don't forget about those next, previous, and done buttons, which appear above the keyboard in most online forms. But of special importance here is the button that you heard, which said autofill contact. So you've already seen that I can double tap on Matthew, which is my first name, and it would have autofilled that edit box with my first name. But it would have only done that edit field. It would not have done the rest of the form. If I want to autofill the entire form, I'm going to hit this autofill contact button.
Matthew toolbar. Autofill contact button. Auto alert. Matthew Grayson Volbrecht.
Now, swipe to the right.
Home, email, phone. Work, email, phone. Customize button.
Okay, so I have home, and it says email and phone. It has work, and it has email and phone. And then it has customize. Maybe I want to use my home address, or home email address, but my iPhone number or my work phone number or something. So you can choose customize and pick which things it's going to do. I'm just, to show you how quick this can be, I'm just going to pick home. Oh, and look at this.
Other contact button.
Other contact. You can even autofill with a different contact if you want to, like if you're helping somebody else do this or something. So
Cancel
let's
button.
go back to the left.
Other work, home, email.
We're just going to say home. I probably will change the phone number to my, we do have a landline, but I, use the iPhone way more. So instead of doing customize, I'm just going to do home, and we'll just change that one. So double tap on home.
Home. Invalids of mobile phone number 814-652.
Okay, now it put me where the mobile phone, I'm going to change that. But let's go back and review what we have.
First name, Matthew. Email, last name, Volbrecht. Email address, and Dutch Volbrecht.
So see, it's putting everything in there already. Now here's the one.
Warning, pressing this button will display the password in the password field.
All right, I'm going to show you that in a moment.
Password. Left paren, X. Right paren, description. Warning, pressing this button will display the password in the password field.
Okay,
button.
That's like the show password button.
Password, secure text field.
Okay.
Required.
There's a field there to enter a password. Now, am I going to have to, come up with some random password and then write it down in notes or something? Well, let's see. Let's double tap this password field.
Insertion point at end. Password strength. Enter a password.
Okay.
Use strong password.
I swipe to the right. It says use strong password. Let's listen.
Protect your account with a strong, unique password. It will be saved in passwords.
So,
fill strong password button. Fill strong password button.
All right, so if I don't want to have to create one myself, I just choose fill strong password. A lot of times it says save and fill. I'm not sure why this one says it differently, so I would probably make sure it actually saves, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to save another password to the keychain or to the passwords app anyway because I already have a Best Buy account. So I'm going to close that.
Close.
But
button.
normally,
Close.
now when you hit close,
C.
now it brings up the keyboard so I can enter my own password if I really want to do that. I don't typically do that though. I let it do it itself, and 9 times out of 10 that will work. Now it's important to point out some of these things don't work on all websites. And there's not much that can be done about that. It's just the way some websites are coded, that they're coded in such a way that the device doesn't recognize what they're looking for. And in particular, I've seen a case or two where the password doesn't conform to the standard of the website. And I thought I saw a way to customize even that. But in general, most of the time, it's going to work just fine, praise God. And if you don't want it to do it, as I said, you just hit close, as I did, and now you could create your own password. Normally, I don't, though. I let it do it itself, and then, as I say, it saves it in the Passwords app, formerly Keychain, and that's where you can look it up later if you need to, but you really don't even have to because, again, it's going to autofill next time you need it, just like I showed you yesterday. So continuing on now, we're going to pretend we did the password thing. We really didn't.
Email address. Warning. Password. Password. Please. Warning. Description. Confirm. Mobile phone number.
This is the one I want to change.
Mobile phone number info. But mobile phone number 81465.
Now, the reason it put the home one in there because that's what I picked. I could have chosen custom, and then we'd have been able to pick the correct one. But instead, I'm just going to double tap in this mobile phone number edit field.
Insertion point at end.
And I'm going to look above the keyboard here.
Toolbar. Done. Button.
On the screen. Now let's swipe to the right.
Home. 81465. Work. 814621.
Okay.
Work. Home. Toolbar.
So right there, it's only showing home and work. But let's go to the left.
Autofill contact. Button.
Double tap on that.
Alert.
Swipe to the right.
81462.
Okay, that's my business number.
81497.
That is my mobile number. And listen.
iPhone.
It says iPhone. So that's the one I want. I'll just double tap.
Invalid data. Best by home.
Okay.
Email address.
Go back here and
password.
see.
Please. Warning. Confirm.
That's the password stuff.
Mobile phone number info. Mobile phone number 814.
And what it did is it actually replaced
text field.
the home number with the mobile one.
Use this mobile number for account recovery.
And there's
checkbox unchecked.
So I can put a check in that box.
Tap use for account recovery phone info. By continuing, you agree to our terms and
And
conditions.
is there a captcha or anything?
Privacy. My Best Buy. Create an account button.
All right, there it is. So I'm going to close this tab. Go down here.
2025 more. More button.
Quadruple tap.
Dismiss contact. Titanic most complete. 30 best microphone. Titanic Amazon. Best Buy. Create an account. Close. Web page loaded. Done. Button. Done.
All right, so let me talk to you about that autofill stuff. I told you we'd teach this a little bit later, but I am going to go ahead and tell you the places you want to look for all this so that you can start setting it up if you want to. For one thing, you want to make sure all of your contact information is correct. That's step one. The next thing is under your contacts app. Let me see. Actually, I think you do this under settings and then Apple Intelligence and Siri, if I remember correctly. There's an option there that says My Info. Make sure you pick your name and your actual correct contact card under there if it's not already selected. Then you're going to go to Settings and you're going to go to General and you're going to go to, I think it's called Autofill and Passwords or Passwords and Autofill, something like that. And you can turn on, what Safari will autofill, and you can even turn on the autofilling of payment information. Now, we haven't taught Apple Pay yet, but there's Apple Pay, and then there's just credit card autofill for websites that don't accept Apple Pay. And so you can go into your wallet and Apple Pay settings, you can go into your Safari autofill settings. The other thing you have is an actual passwords app, and it has settings as well under settings and apps, but you can also just go into the passwords app. That's where everything's going to be stored when you create these logins and so forth. The autofill will do, it'll even, I mean, that was a pretty simple form. It only needed a first and last name, an email address, phone number, and a password. But, some forms ask for your birthday, some forms ask for your gender, some forms ask for a physical home address or whatever, all kinds of things. And autofill will handle it all if it's in the contact. And then, as I said, even the credit cards. And if you have multiple ones, you can pick which card you use. It's protected by, military grade encryption with Face ID or Touch ID. And this is a really, really great way to fill out forms because most of the time you don't need to do anything but choose the autofill option and then customize anything that you might want to. It really works brilliantly, and I would highly encourage you um, to use that. And then the other thing I just tell you before we go to the lab and so on is that in the cases where you do have captchas, the generally there is there's a couple of different ways that captchas can be handled. One of the biggest and most common captcha services is the Google Captcha service, and that's the one you typically see, which has the checkbox that says "I'm not a robot." When you double tap it, it says select all the images with cars or whatever. But if you swipe to the right and you say get a new challenge and then get an audio challenge, if you double tap on get an audio challenge, it's immediately going to put your cursor on the press play thing. And so don't swipe. If you would happen to get off of it, the captcha is very near to the bottom of the page, bottom of the screen. But just don't swipe and just double tap, and then you'll hear the audio. Swipe to the right, there's an edit field. You can double tap and enter what you've heard. I know it's not always easy. They're designed not to be easy because, especially with the emergence of AI, the way that it is, you don't want some bot understanding the audio. So it deliberately, confuses it. And I also understand and I recognize that this could be a problem for folks who are hard of hearing. And usually, it may be a situation where you're going to have help or contact the company, those types of things. They're usually, willing to do what they can. But I also can tell you that there is an option which works most of the time. Again, there are some exceptions, but this works most of the time under settings, and then it is under your name. And after you tap on your name, you go to sign in and security, and you scroll down to the very bottom. There's an option for automatic verification. If you turn on automatic verification on any websites that support it, it will automatically solve the CAPTCHA without you having to do anything, simply because you are signed in with your Apple account. And there's a lot of third-party websites that works for, and what you'll see is you'll still see the checkbox, but it'll just say you are verified, and you won't have to do, or you might even have to put a check in the box. Let me back up. There are times that you'll actually have to still check the box, but it's just that instead of bringing up a CAPTCHA for you to solve, then it's just going to go to you are verified. And so it automatically does verify you. That's a good, useful setting to have enabled. Then you don't have to mess with those CAPTCHAs. I saw about the neatest CAPTCHA or verification that I've ever seen, by the way, on AT&T recently, just as a little side trip. They had you do something really cool for their audio challenge, and there were different ones. Like the one I had to do said, which of the following sounds contains drums or something like that, or like a stringed instrument, different things, and then they'd play like 3 or 4 different patterns, and you had to select the one that matched what I thought that was really cool. But, most people don't care for captchas too much. They're not exactly, what we want to spend our time doing, but they are there for your own safety and security. But again, praise God, many websites now will accept that automatic verification through the Apple account if you just make sure that that's checked under again, it's under settings and then your name and then sign in and security. There's also two other things I want to talk about with that: sign in with Apple and then passkeys. So a passkey is basically going to eliminate the need for a password, and it replaces it with whatever biometric authentication your device has, Touch ID, Face ID, whatever. And so it will just ask you to use that, and it stores a secure encryption key on your device to sign in. And websites like Amazon and Google, and I think PayPal and a bunch of others do support passkeys. And then there's sign in with Apple. And some of you know what, like, sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook. It's the same kind of thing. Sign in with Apple uses your Apple account and the fact that you are signed in, and it doesn't require you then to create a separate login. And you can have your emails, you can actually use your real email, or you can have it automatically create a random email that will forward to your existing email. So that way you don't even have to give the company, whoever it may be, your real email address. And you can use that at any time, even without using sign in with Apple. You can use that hide my email feature. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to, when we have a session on staying safe in a digital world, that we're going to get into. But I just wanted to point out some of those things to you today, so you had kind of an idea of what to look for and what to expect. We've kind of shown you, a good bit with Safari. There's a lot more that we haven't, and things I'm sure that I'm not even thinking of that we didn't show you. But in between these 2 days, hopefully we've given you a good running start with Safari. And Sarah, do you have anything to add about what we talked about here today now?
No, I'm glad we covered the autofill, because boy, does it not only saves time, but I don't remember my passwords often, and I don't remember, certain things. I know my name.
Right.
But,
well,
and it takes time to fill in your address, and if it's so easy when you use autofill.
One of the, with the password thing, like I always say, there's no unsinkable ship in the earthly sense. I trust God for his protection. But, there's this wisdom that certain things that they advise you to do, and two things that you can really do that are just so simple but so effective in protecting yourself and your digital life and everything. One is two-factor authentication for not only your Apple account, but for any account that offers it. And the second one is using a different password. One of the biggest and easiest mistakes to make, but also one of the simplest ones to not make, is don't use the same password across multiple websites. Well, why? Well, because in the event that one of those websites would happen to get hacked or something, then they don't have your login for every website that you've ever been on, as long as you're not using the same combination of email and password,
I did make that mistake, and I had a very cool password, and I loved it, and I used it for everything. But
well,
Apple,
we've all done that in the past because it's easy.
Well,
That's what you think makes sense, right? But
but the warning came up.
Yeah.
So, these are compromised passwords. This is dangerous. Whatever the wording was that Apple
Right.
put out there was,
Right.
these are the things that you need to look at. So, and I did. Took a while, but I did, because everything had the same password. But that's great. And also, I wanted to say that a lot of times when it says pay with Apple, or is that what it says? Pay with Apple, or
the buy with Apple Pay?
Buy with Apple Pay. Well, it's not even. It's something with Apple. It doesn't even say Apple Pay.
Oh, is it the sign in with Apple?
Yeah, maybe that, but also you can buy things, like when you're checking out. And it doesn't say Apple Pay. It just says, with Apple, because what happens is when you do that, it takes you to your choice of the card that you have as default.
Right.
So when you're, and this came up at a different meeting, I think, where basically you can go there, and if it chooses a card that you don't want to use today, whether it's, an Apple card or whatever your bank card is, you can double tap on it and change it.
Yes, you can. Yep.
All the cards that you actually have in your wallet, they're available. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Even now, the Apple Cash Card that, again, we haven't taught Apple Pay yet, but the Apple Cash Card that you can use um, now can have an actual credit card number as well. So you can even use that to pay on, websites with Apple Pay, and you can use it with like auto renew stuff so that it, and Apple Pay, one of the best things about Apple Pay is there's a lot of really good things about it, but one of my favorite things is that it fills in all the information for you. So if you have a website where, you have this whole long, okay, you got to enter your first name, last name, address for shipping, is the billing address the same, phone number, credit card number. If it has an Apple Pay button at the bottom, that's going to fill in everything for you
right.
automatically, as long as your settings are correct. But it will, and then you don't have to even bother with all of that other stuff.
And also, I just feel safer there. I mean, maybe it's because you said it so many times, but I just do. I mean, Apple and security, they're very good.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Have an additional comment or feedback? Email us info@ttjtech.biz or info@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. Or check out our websites for additional resources. That's ttjtech.biz or stiritup.com. And remember, subscribe to the newsletter when you're there. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming announcements or events. Thanks for joining us. God bless, and see you next time.